Hello viewers, welcome to online tutorials. I'm going to learn about Splunk. What is Splunk? Splunk is an enterprise software platform to analyze, search, visualize the machine data that is generated from different appliances such as websites, application sensors, devices, etc., which make up the IT infrastructure and business. So each and every machine around us in today's real life will generate a log. The log file here will play a very major role to assess about the machine that is working and to investigate when machine occurs a failure. With the increasing machinery around us today in the real life, it is becoming very challenging job for the people who are maintaining those machineries to investigate on them when a failure occurs and to understand the log files. So, to overcome that challenge, Splunk is very useful in that sense because it brings all the missionary log files into a central repository called Splunk indexes. When log files were brought up into a central repository, it is becoming very easy to maintain them. So, what data will Splunk inject to itself? So, Splunk can inject almost every data. So, that may include data streaming from packaged and custom applications, application servers, web servers, databases, networks, virtual machines, telecom equipments, operating systems, sensors, and so on. So these make up our IT infrastructure data maintaining very easy rather than going into each and every log files. Sometimes the log files may be in different locations and it will be widespread around different regions. So to overcome that solution, Splunk will create a central repository to itself. Splunk is a kind of Google for log files because when in our daily life we'll just go ahead and we'll type something what we want in the Google and it brings up the results from the internet. So Splunk will do almost much similar job to that. So when all the log files are assembled in a central repository called Splunk index, when we run a query on that data, so it show up the results that mean our query. Suppose you are responsible for maintaining a production data center, and if any issue occurs there, you will obviously go and see the log files of different machineries and different servers that is working in that data center. But when the data center is very huge and it is not recommendable to view each and every log file of each and different appliances of that data center, then Splunk comes into. So to view about a little background of the Splunk. So Eric and Rob were co-founders of the Splunk, and they started couple of startups in their career, and they are looking for next challenge in their career. So they were just investigating about what are the problems that are generally faced by companies, particularly infrastructure maintenance companies. So they come to know this issue of maintaining log files and their difficulties and challenges investigating on the log files. So that is the situation where Splunk arises. So here are some key points about Splunk. Splunk is platform and for optical intelligence, log analytics, and machine data visualizations. So Splunk helps in handling machine data that is structured, unstructured, semi-structured data. That means Splunk can take almost every data from many different appliances. When the background data that is lost gets the spotlight through Splunk, which gives us useful insights. It can be for different form of visualizations, alerts. So visualizations and alerts can be created in the Splunk, and those visualizations can be drawn over the data that is injected into the Splunk because the visualizations and graphs trends are very useful for a company's growth and for analyzing the historical trends. So that is also an added advantage to the Splunk apart from analyzing the log files. Splunk is a paid tool. Its license works on the amount of data that is indexed. That means that the amount of data that is sent into the Splunk per daily basis. That is how the Splunk licensing will be calculated. Splunk has its own query language called as Splunk Search Processing Language. This query language means that the queries that are used to retrieve the data from Splunk indexes. So these queries will be very simple and these are nowhere related as a complex database queries or something like that. Here is a diagrammatic representation of the machine data that can be injected into Splunk. So when we see clearly into this picture, so it has almost all appliances whose log files can be sent into the Splunk. That may include sensors, security, custom appliances, network devices, databases, servers, smartphones, virtual machines, web servers. So all the log files from all these machineries can be sent into the Splunk for enhanced view of their log files and for further investigation of the log files. So here are the important key points about the Splunk. So, so Splunk is very vital in creating a central repository. So one of the major specialty of the Splunk is the way the diverse type of data from different many sources are centralized for searching. So Splunk is intelligent enough to identify the type of data that is coming into the Splunk and put it into its indexes. So that means that we are having a central repository of different data coming from different locations. So that can be easy for visualization or investigation into the log files. So Splunk converts data into answers. So for example, you are responsible for maintaining couple of servers and couple of database servers. When something is wrong with those servers, we can easily go and identify from its log files, provided that the log file identification is feasible to do. But with the increasing demand and increasing machinery in real life today, it is becoming very difficult to maintain them. So we are having all the answers about the machine in the log files, but it is difficult to retrieve them from that log files. Splunk will give very helpful hand in this scenario and it helps us to find the insights that are buried in the data. That means that it will convert data to give all the answers for our questions that is lying inside the log files. Splunk helps us to understand the structure and meaning of the data. The more we understand our data, the more we can see into it. Splunk also helps us to capture what we learn to make future investigations easier and to share what we have learned to others. So the final visualizations closes the loop. All the data that is sent into the Splunk and all the searches we are doing over the data will be clearly viewed over the visualizations that Splunk is providing to us. So being able to visualize the data in different ways accelerates the understanding and helps us to understand better on the log files. So to summarize what we have learned until now, Splunk is mainly a tool, a log analytics tool that is used to analyze the real-time logs that is generated from different machineries from different locations. Splunk almost takes all types of data, but one condition here is that should be in a written format of text. That means that Splunk cannot take the data that is in an image format. It should be in a written format. So all the types of data that is in written format in the text can be sent into the Splunk. That may be structured data or unstructured data or semi-structured data. So any type of data can be sent into the Splunk. After sending the data into the Splunk, we can run queries on the data that is in the Splunk using Splunk Query Language or SPL. Using that query, we can retrieve the desired information from the log files that are stored in the Splunk. So, once we got the log file in the centralized location, we can generate visualizations over that log file. Visualizations give us the better insights into the data that is present in the Splunk, and it accelerates the understanding of the data that is present in that. So Splunk will also provide all the answers for the questions that we put on the log files. It helps us in the quicker understanding of any failure that occurs in the log files, or any intrusion or any security threat that has been occurred to our systems, and almost all answers we can get by querying the log files in the Splunk.